Welcome to Psychic Bent. My name is Carrie.
And I'm Kim. We are two sisters wanting to help other psychics learn and grow in their abilities and to help educate about spirits, angels, and everything psychic.
Welcome back, listeners, to Psychic Bent. And I'm back with Kim. Yay!
Yay!
Hope
we
everybody
missed you.
Oh, thank you. I missed you guys too. Hope everybody enjoyed the episode that Kim did on auras. And it's very difficult to do an episode by yourself, isn't it, Kim?
Oh, it's very difficult, yes. Especially when you're used to doing it with somebody else and they're participating in the conversation, and oh gosh, it's hard. There was no one laughing with me, so
I always tease Kim because when she's doing this by her, when she does it by herself, she's got this voice that, and I tease her. I'm like, what is that sex voice? What are you doing there? So just kidding. But I mean, it's always like that. That's not how you normally sound on the podcast. She's like, I can't help it.
You weren't there to brighten my conversation, so.
Oh, that almost sounded sincere.
It was sincere.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Sister jibing aside, we're glad to be back together to get the podcast out. We have had quite the time, but let's just reflect. Between hurricanes,
Mm-hmm.
we had a snowstorm here, which snow in western North Carolina shuts everything down. I could not get back into my house for 5 days.
Yep.
And then when I finally got there, I almost didn't make it up the very steep, windy driveway.
Mm-hmm.
Dad had to come get me in his big old pickup truck, and then I couldn't come home for another 3 days.
Yeah.
So, because of ice and ice storm that happened. So, we're having Kim's weather in North Carolina. Kim, your weather's drunk in my yard. Come get it. That's all I can say.
Nope, it's yours until it wears off.
No. So, and then poor Kim, the stomach flu has been not kind to her house.
No, it has not. It's gotten 3 of us now. There's one left, and we're hoping he does not get it. So.
Yeah, and he's hoping he doesn't get it either, by the way.
Exactly.
He has Kim in quarantine and spraying her with Lysol and everything. It's just really, it's so cute. Don't give it to me.
You keep it.
We obviously have had some scheduling issues, from the holidays and everything. So we're getting there. We're here. So occasionally you may get a single episode, not single episode, but an episode that's just Kim or an episode that's just me. And it's just because life happens and Spirit has a sense of humor.
Yeah, very much so.
So please be patient with us as we have to navigate through the circumstances that are not preventable, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just want to thank the listeners for being patient. Thank you, Kim, for putting together an episode for Monday. We're going to work very hard to get a couple episodes ahead. But again, every time we say that, life happens.
Yes.
So we're just going to do it.
Yep.
We're just going to deal with it. So, did you have anything you wanted to say, Kim, before we jump on into today's episode?
No, I'm good. Let's head on into it. I'm kind of excited about it.
You're always excited about it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, let's talk about this. We were talking the other day. Kim and I talk a lot, so it's not a surprise that we were talking the other day. And we were discussing about kind of how many episodes in we are. We're approaching a 1-year mark of the podcast. Yay! It's what, March? It's in March.
It's March 3rd is when we dropped our first episode in 2024. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were talking about a couple different things and kind of how we have evolved with our abilities since we started the podcast, because the whole point of the podcast was to help others, but also to help ourselves to grow and learn and how to use our psychic abilities and how to, for Kim, exit the closet comfortably.
Mm-hmm.
And for both of us to develop the clairs and where we want to go with those particular clairs and how we want to develop, like Kim was, in the auras and how you practice that. And so we give so much information that sometimes we feel like, well, maybe we overloaded, or I feel that way. I don't know if you feel that way, Kim, but sometimes I feel like we overload.
No, I agree. I think we do. Yeah. Especially when left brain happens. So yeah.
Well, left brain happens. I mean, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
That's just how you are. That's fine. I was having dinner with a very different Anne the other night, and she is, she's working her abilities. She's done a lot of, and it's funny how we've talked about this before. Your tribe finds you.
Mm-hmm.
I've known Anne for 8 years, and that neither one of us ever had the psychic conversation before, but here we are. And she's an avid listener of the podcast, and it's helping her, and she's working on things. And when we were having dinner the other day, we were talking, and she's like, I have to tell you, I've started the podcast over. And I said, you have? And she goes, well, not the first episode. I went, oh, okay. I was like, well, that was our first. But she felt that she was at a point where she needed to go back and re-listen to what she missed. Because when you're in a certain spot in your growth, you hear what you need to hear, what you're supposed to hear.
Right, because you probably weren't ready to hear it yet. So it doesn't hurt to go back and re-listen to things. Yeah. I'm picking up things we've missed.
Well, exactly. Well, I mean, and we were talking about this the other day. I mean, I had signed up for a psychic development class, but I wasn't really ready to take it. You know, it was, through the Udemy course, and I did it until they got to the tarot, and I wasn't comfortable with tarot.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a lifetime I can do this class, but I stopped the class because I wasn't comfortable when we got to the tarot exercises. Well, now I'm like, I need to go finish this class,
Mm-hmm.
but I wasn't ready for the class. I learned, I mean, I got some good out of the class, don't get me wrong. I did learn a lot of things, but I wasn't ready to go to the next step at that period.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think that just go back and revisiting different episodes to see what else I mean, like, go through the list and see what pops out at you. If it pops out at you, that's what you need to listen to. If it doesn't pop out at you, okay, you're good to go. If you're just bored, listen to an episode. But you know what I'm saying? What resonates with you is usually true. So she was going to start over with the Claires. And I told her, I said, well, the empaths and Claires were the most, in my opinion, the most impactful yet most confusing episodes because there was so much information.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of information in those. Definitely.
But you couldn't leave that information out.
True.
So you may be very comfortable now with clairvoyance. And so you're like, I don't need to listen to that episode. Okay, don't. But which other clair are you now going to develop? Are you going to work on clairsentient, claircognizance, clairaudience? Are you going to do the smell and taste? You know what I'm saying? It's where do you feel you need? Do you have any stories you want to share, Kim, as I put you on the spot about any of your clairs?
Well, as I've
If not, we
been.
can cut that out.
No, you said that whenever we did this to begin with. I
I
think that
know.
was in like the first or second episode.
I'm consistent.
Yes, you are.
You should have been prepared.
Oh, I am. Whenever I was getting ready to prepare this Aura's episode that I did, I had given it a whole lot of thought about, well, what could I do a topic on just to have in case of an emergency where we needed to drop an episode. And that caused me to go back and look at all of the episodes that we did and go through notes and everything that we've done for these, I think it's like 47 episodes that we've put out so far. And it made me realize and become aware as I was going back and reading these that my clairs I've definitely been working on, but I hadn't realized how much I had been working on them. I hope that makes sense because once you first start opening them up and you move on to the next, they all kind of work together to help you develop into the psychic that you are. And I just kind of at first thought, oh, subject matter, that's what it was, put it in the drawer in my filing cabinet in my brain, pull it out later if I need it. That's usually what happens with my thoughts. And I realized as I was reading through those, I'm like, oh, my clairvoyance has gotten better. I remember that the other day. I remember seeing something, an image or a person. I mean, I am seeing more people than what I had in my waking life before. You know what I mean? I know I get a lot of messages in sleep, but this has made me aware that my clairs are definitely more developed than what they were when we first started.
I agree with you on that, but don't you feel like maybe that you've gotten used to using it, so now you don't realize you're using it more?
Yes, that's where I was going with this. I did it, I practiced them, they've developed, I've moved on to the next step, but yet you are still using them and developing them in your journey and not even realizing that that's what's happening to you. That
Exactly.
you are definitely expanding on those clairs that started it all. It was really fascinating. A lot of awareness came through going back.
And even if you don't want to go back and listen to our past podcast on it, Google it. Google Claire's and see what's resonating with you and where you think you need to go. I mean, it's not just our podcast, but you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Go where you feel you need to go. But I feel that it's just like the more that you develop your senses, the more your senses are going to take hold. And the
Mm-hmm.
more that you just, it's like riding a bike. You don't think about pedaling the bike to make it go.
Right.
You worked on your clairvoyance. You don't think about the clairvoyance anymore because you get the hit and you're like, you just kind of go with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, okay. It's just like when talking to someone, all of a sudden the reading comes up. It's like, oh, we're going to do this now. It's just kind of like you just get used to it. It's just like, oh, okay, well, all right. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think with anything in your development, whether it's your clairs or empath or grounding technique or any of the items that are in your psychic toolbox, always deserve to have a revisit because you forget things.
Mm-hmm.
Or things, like we said earlier, they didn't resonate with you the first time you heard it
Yeah.
because you weren't meant to hear that at that particular time because you weren't there in your development stage.
Right. Yeah. Totally agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed that some of my clairvoyance, and for those of you who haven't done that episode and just are jumping in, clairvoyance is clear seeing. So you're seeing things with your third eye.
Mm-hmm.
So you can be having a vivid picture or a movie scene or see an image or a symbol. It's just it's anything like that. It's not like the movies. We've had listeners comment on that. They're like, "You're so right. It's not like the TV or not like the movies." And it's not.
It's not.
You're getting a psychic hit and you're expecting to be so, like the melodramatic music playing in the background and you're like, oh, I have to pass out now because I had this, clairvoyant thing going. It's not like that.
No.
And it's different from everybody, and it's different on how developed your clair sense is on whichever clair you're talking about. In this particular one, we're focusing on clairvoyance, and I think I focus on that a lot because that's the most common clair that people know what it is.
Oh, yeah, I would agree with that.
Because clairvoyance is used in TV and books and things like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the most sensationalized one that
Yeah.
they have out there in media and such.
I've never heard of clairaudience out there in the movies. Oh, I'm a clairaudient, huh? Never heard it.
No, but they do. They don't call it clairaudience, but they do the hearing thing.
Yeah.
Did you hear
But
that?
yeah,
And such.
but they don't give it the proper name.
No, they don't.
But anybody that has some sort of vision, all of a sudden it's clairvoyance, it's like.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So it's like clairaudience is clairvoyance's little sister. Yeah, here I am. I'm important too, and
Yeah.
and we all know not everybody develops a clairvoyance.
Yeah.
You have the ability to work on it and develop it, but not everybody is in a place where they are working with their third eye.
Well, that's true.
Because you do have to work on your third eye. You have to develop your third eye to be
Mm-hmm.
able to use clairvoyance. So, like we talked about before, everything takes work. And that's just one of the muscles you have to exercise, which, of course, that means you're doing meditation that is focusing on your third eye. Kim gave some really good exercises in the clairvoyance episode on how to exercise that particular psychic muscle.
Yeah.
But like today, it was really funny because, again, you draw your tribe. I have in the department I work at, there are 2 people that are definite empaths and 2 people that one is not working on their abilities as much, busy mom, wife, life takes over, so it's hard for her to have that time to do it. Very young family, and it gets hectic. And then the other one is the single mom. You've heard me reference several times. And it's really funny. The single mom came over when we were comparing, and she's very psychic and she's really working on her abilities and finding out who she is and what she wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
And she's got 2 boys, and she's been very open with them on what she's doing because, she came from a highly religious background, and she wants her boys to be raised in an environment that's non-judgmental, that's accepting, And so she comes over to my desk periodically to tell me things, and she had this particular dream she kind of brought up, and she's and I know what's going on in her life, and so I just like, yeah, okay, wait, what do you think the dream means? And so she's like, well, I'm really stumped because I don't like horses, and there were 3 black horses, and I'm like, okay. She goes, so it's really weird, but she had just told me about she has to have oral surgery, and who is not afraid to have anything done with their mouth by a dentist or oral surgeon?
Uh, yeah,
Yeah,
don't even
yeah.
go there.
Yeah, I
I mean, I
mean,
go
no,
there, but I don't like to go there.
yeah, nobody says, "Yay, I'm having oral surgery today. I'm so excited." Nobody does that. They're excited to get the
Yeah.
braces off. They're different things, but it's the whole initial process is scary. And she's got to have her wisdom teeth cut out, all 4. She's going to have to be put under for it. She's going to have to. Her kids are going to go stay with their father, for the weekend, so she could be at home and just rest and take care of herself. And so she's trying not to feel guilty about that, but I mean, that's a very good boundary, very healthy
Right.
boundary,
Mm-hmm.
because she doesn't want her young children to worry. And so she's telling me all of this and all this stuff she's going to have done in her mouth and what's going to do and everything. Oh, and I had the string. And she's about 3 black horses, and I'm just looking at her, and she goes, I did what you told me to do. I looked it up, and it could be either good or it could be bad, but a lot of it is like you're dealing with a fear, and you're protected, but there's this fear. And I'm looking at her, I'm like, what did you just tell me about? She goes, what? I'm like, dentist, oral surgery. She goes, oh, that's it. In this dream, which could be a form of clairvoyance, the spirit was telling her it's going to be okay. And it was really funny. When she went to the dentist office, she looked down at the car, and it was 333.
Mm.
So she goes into the oral surgeon, and this woman is a avid Taylor Swift person, loves Taylor Swift. Well, she goes in there, and the receptionist has a Taylor Swift collage of pictures right there. She's like, oh my gosh. So she was getting all these affirmation signs,
Mm-hmm.
like, who has Taylor Swift stuff up at their office? I'm not a Swiftie, so I wouldn't, but it was just like you found your oral surgeon. You obviously found where you're supposed to be, because she's been getting all these signs. And then she had 3 horses. Well, 3 is a good number.
Mm-hmm.
And black doesn't necessarily mean negativity.
Right.
Protection,
Mm.
grounding, a lot of different things, facing your fears, having strength. And so she's telling me all the meaning of the black, and I'm like, looking at her like, well, yeah, and you're having oral surgery done, and you're freaking out over it. She goes, oh, yeah, that would be it. So we're having this conversation. And then the other one, the busy mom that has the husband and the kids, very busy, and she can't really develop right now because she's so busy. We hear her say, all right, I'm coming. And it's quiet. I thought, well, maybe she's on the phone. So she comes over, and she's standing there while we're talking, and we're both looking at her. She goes, what do you want? What do you mean, what do we want? She goes, you said, Cassie, come here. We went, no, we didn't. But I said, but we wondered who you were talking to. You said you would be right there. So she had a very obvious and embarrassing clairaudient moment, because everybody in the space, those who don't know what we're talking about and those that did, heard her say, well, I
Yeah.
heard you say, Cassie, come here.
Hmm.
So I thought you were talking to someone on the phone, and someone else said, I just thought you were sleeping, talking in your sleep. It was just kind of like random stuff. And that's happened to you and I
Oh.
countless times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Countless.
And it's so real that you react just like this poor girl did. Okay, I'm coming. I'll be right there.
Yep.
And then you got people looking at you like, what are you talking about?
Yep. I have that one a lot. The Claire audience happening a lot with the bonus kid. It's driving her absolutely nuts, and I'm like, I'm sorry, but I hear what you're saying. Maybe you shouldn't think so hard.
Well, sometimes it's not that's more telepathy.
That's true.
And you can do that clairaudiently, I'm sure, but a lot of it's where you get that voice and you don't know where it came from.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you can hear others' voice, others' thoughts. I think telepathy, we covered, is part of clairaudient.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, people don't like that.
No.
Yeah, especially if they're an ex-spouse.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Oh, goodness.
But that's one of your psychic abilities you don't share with everybody. Well, I mean, talking about the bonus kid,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's one who needs to listen to the Claire series.
Well, she needs to listen to a lot of the podcasts, but yeah, definitely the Claires. She's got stuff going on that I don't think she's aware. I know she's not aware of half of
Well,
what's going on around her, and other times she's living on it, you know?
and I felt really bad last time I stayed at your house because I kind of freaked her out.
Just a little bit.
Didn't mean to.
Yeah, well, she does tend to, she's drawn to things and she brings them home. She loves to do thrift shopping and stuff like that, and there's nothing wrong with thrift shopping. I particularly can't do it because I don't like the feeling in them when I go in. I'm creeped out by some things.
Too much energy. And then if you go in there and you've got those pictures of people that are long forgotten sitting on a wall,
Mm-hmm.
it's the sadness that's off those pictures. And then you have the items that are haunted
Right.
that she keeps bringing home.
Exactly. She brings them home and they come downstairs and start to try to interact with me. And I'm like, no, you need to go.
You get right back upstairs.
Except for the male one that was upstairs. That one was a little off.
Yeah. Well, that one's been with her for a while, so
Yeah.
that's different. But it was one of those where I'm sitting there talking to Kim, and she's right there, and I just like unloaded on her, like, you need to quit bringing haunted stuff home. And she's like, what?
Mm-hmm.
I said, you're bringing entities into the house. You need to, when you go get something, you need to figure out why you're drawn to it.
Yeah.
Why do you really want to bring this home? Because you keep bringing, I don't mean to say it, but you keep bringing strays home. I said, and the kid's got to deal with it.
Yeah.
And then I left the room. She was like,
It's like she dropped the mic and left.
I'm done. I gave you what Spirit wanted me to tell you. Bye. Bye, Felicia. I just left the room. Let Kim clean up the mess.
Yeah, so Carrie leaves to go back home, and the bonus kid comes up to me when she comes home from work and says, I have to know, is it really that bad? I said, is what really that bad? When I bring things home, I went, oh, yeah, it is.
I was just visiting and I knew how bad it was. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, so I have to tell things to go quite often when you bring things home. I can always tell when a new item has arrived in the house, and usually it's because there's somebody at the bottom of the steps looking at me.
That's a giveaway.
That's
Like,
a giveaway.
when did you get here?
Yeah.
And now you have to go. But this is very important dialogue because if you're not practicing your clairs or your other developments or protection or grounding, what all are you bringing home into your house?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you need to practice clearing. And, we've talked about that in other episodes, how to properly smudge your space and clear your space. But, you really have to be, mindful too of what you do bring into your house. I know I digress, but it's not part of the Claire's conversation, but it kind of is because she's being drawn to things and she's probably using a Claire, doesn't know she's using the Claire, and she's highly ungrounded.
Yeah, well, she's definitely ungrounded. That's for
Yes.
sure. That's for sure.
I thought it was really surprising at Christmas. She sat next to me at dinner. I'm like, okay, must be forgiven.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think she is probably using clairsentience,
Oh,
to be
yeah,
honest.
definitely.
I
Yeah.
think she's feeling a need to bring these things home because of how it makes her feel.
Yeah.
How,
And and think, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but when you
no,
think
that's
about
right.
it, the emotion that's coming from the item,
Hmm.
if you're a type of individual that highly empathic and wants to help and wants to try to help everybody, and you don't want anybody to feel bad, well, you're going to come across items in a thrift store that have such heightened emotion attached to them.
Yeah, the energy around them
Yes.
is filled with that emotion. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're drawn to always helping someone, or if you grew up in an environment where you were the one doing all that, you were the giver,
Hmm.
well, that makes it a very bad psychic for you because as growing up, you're still the giver, or a really bad empath because you're still the giver, and you're not putting those boundaries in place, and you're not doing the necessary steps that you need to do to take care of yourself.
Right.
So when you get those clairsentient emotions, and sometimes you have to ask yourself if Kim won't be in the antique store asking herself this,
Right.
but I have trouble going to flea markets.
Hmm.
because the emotions and the energies and then there's all these people there, and it's just not good for me.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're drawn to something, sometimes you have to ask yourself why. If I'm in the apothecary's shop and I'm drawn to something, obviously I need it. But if I'm out and about and I go and walk into a thrift store, why am I drawn to you?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you need to ask yourself that question. What's my psychic hit on you? And at that point, you may want to try to use one of the clairs. You've got the where you hold it,
Mm-hmm.
feel it, what's the emotion on it. And yeah, you may look a little weird doing just holding something like that, but that's where you're going to get the real read on what that item is.
But that shouldn't appear unnormal to anybody because anytime you go to a store, not just a thrift store or whatever, you touch items. You pick them up, you look at them, you inspect them. It's the same thing. You are trying to, but it will
I
appear
hold,
that you're doing the
yeah.
same thing.
Well, I guess I do it a little weird. The way my belief system is your dominant hand is your, like, when you're looking, when you pick a gemstone, whichever the dominant hand is, that's the
Mm-hmm.
stone you pick it up with, because that's your receiving. But when you're
Right.
wearing jewelry, you're going to put it on the non-dominant to receive and your dominant to release.
Okay.
So I'm going to hold it in a particular hand. I'm going to be like, looking at it, like asking it mentally, why do you need to come home with me? Why am I drawn to you?
Mm-hmm.
Is there something attached to you? Okay, I'm putting you down now. That kind of stuff. So
But to someone that is watching you or observing you, I don't think they would perceive that as odd.
I'm not handling it. I'm just holding it. I'm
Right.
not looking at it. I'm not looking underneath it. I'm not turning it around. I'm just kind of like, so I'm sizing it up.
Right.
Why do you need to come home with me? Like,
Mm-hmm.
why? Well, I rarely bring stuff like that home. So
Yeah.
because of the attachments that can have and the emotional, what we talked about before, someone who was drawn to a particular chair that had an entity attached to it,
Right. I
and
was
she
going to
brought,
bring that up.
yeah, she brought it home, sends me a picture of the chair. I'm like, who's the man? And she's like, oh, that's real funny. I'm like, I'm not kidding. And then I don't say anything to Kim. I send Kim the picture. What do you think of this? She goes, who's the man? I'm like, okay. Two confirmed, there's a man in your picture. But that's where she was drawn to it. Why? Which Claire was she using to be drawn to that?
Right.
Or was it just being ungrounded? I don't know.
Well, it's probably a combination of the two.
Well, she was excited to have a haunted chair because she's into
That's
because
true.
she's the one that's into the macabre.
Yeah.
Until she started putting things in the chair and he got mad, but they worked it out and it's all good now. But you just don't know sometimes when you go into those stores. But it's got nothing to do with Claire's. Well, go on.
Yeah.
Now, when we did the episode to begin with, the very first series, that episode of the series of Claire's, you had talked about that you had a lot of precognition in your daily
Mm-hmm.
life. So, as your Clairs have developed, do you feel that you still have a lot of that going on? Or do you feel that that's kind of stepped into the background as you've worked on other Clairs?
Well, I have that happening all the time anyway, but I'm identifying that that's what it is now. I'm more
Okay.
aware that I knew that was going to happen or this was going to happen. I mean, I just knew it. It was just, I think I'm more conscious of it now.
Yeah.
This is the deja vu stuff that I always experience. It's the deja vu. I have that all the time and know that's what it is. Now, a lot of my deja vu, I think I've dreamt it before,
Yes. Well,
but
that's
that's where
usually
I get those
the
signals from
feeling.
anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think I still have those happening. And I identify that that's what they are, but I'm paying attention to them more now. Because
Yeah.
it's like, all right, why did I have it before and why is it happening now? Kind of thing, what's next? What do I remember happening next?
Yeah.
I do definitely think about it more.
Well, good. I was curious about that
Hmm.
because that was one of your big things when we were going during the original series. I'm like, oh, what if she's still doing that? I need to find out. We do talk daily, but we don't necessarily. Kim, where are you at your psychic development today?
Exactly.
Because I mean, we share dreams and stuff, and the strange things that happen usually to me, evidently, because Kim doesn't share as much with me as I share with hers. But she's been in quarantine the last 4 days with her stomach flu.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
But I was just curious about that because, as we develop, we've come to recognize what's going on, the more it's going to happen. Like the more you talk to a spirit, the more that
Hmm.
spirit's going to interact with you because, they can hear me. You've given it up. You've let them know, I know you're there. Well, they're going to start talking to you more when you communicate with spirit and your guides.
Hmm.
The more you do that, the more you interact with them, the more it's going to happen. And I think that it just happens so gradually that you don't even realize how far you've come in that moment. And I think recognizing that is huge.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to say earlier. It just really amazed me how far personally I have come out of the psychic closet or whatever, or identifying that that's even what was happening. Because primarily my thing was, well, I didn't even know that's what that was, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You didn't know. You didn't have a name to put to it, so you didn't really connect it.
Hmm. Right. I've been doing a lot of work on my past to let things go to help move forward because you have to be able to do that.
Exactly.
What triggered this? What triggered that? Why am I feeling or why am I afraid? Why am I having anxieties with this or fears of this in my personality and stuff? And I can see where it went back to maybe an experience in early childhood that I remember. Oh, wait a minute, that happened. That really happened. I was saying that's what was going on, and I was told, no, you were dreaming. It had to have been a dream. It's not real. It was this. This is all we see. We don't see that kind of thing. And I can see where things had happened. I'm not knocking anybody in my past. I'm just saying it's,
I think, Kim, that reaction is common because parents don't know what to do. They don't know what to say.
I agree.
So they automatically, and especially in an age where psychics weren't talked about,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the Bible Belt. So
Right.
I think that was a knee-jerk response.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you don't have a monster under your bed.
Right. Those aren't bodiless arms coming up from the side of the bed, but the
Right,
hands, you
right,
know.
right. Meanwhile, oldest daughter's seeing it too, and no one knows.
No one knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how many times, as a mother, think of it, you knew you were psychic when you didn't identify it as psychic, but you knew you had abilities when you were raising your psychic child.
Yes.
So you made a point to not discredit.
Yeah.
But weren't there at least one or two times you almost did the whole, that's just your imagination?
I don't think so because she and I had such a connection anyway. Well, no. There was one time that I can specifically remember that I thought, did she really? I don't understand that one. And she liked to play hide and seek in the house. That was something she always liked, and she liked to be scared with the boo, whenever she'd come to find me or whatever. And then I would go find her because she always liked to, it was just a game we played for, oh, who knows how many hours and stuff. It was just something.
You
And
still play it today?
no, well, no, we don't play it today.
Okay, just checking.
But I'm talking when she was like from like 3 until probably 10. We played it all the time.
Well, I'm glad you didn't say 18.
Yeah. But I think she was probably 7 maybe. And we were playing, and I was hiding in the bedroom that was on the first floor of our old house, and it was dark in that room. The lights weren't on and the shades were closed. She was searching everywhere. She may have been a little bit younger than that, but she was searching everywhere. She couldn't find me. And then she just stopped and she turned around and looked into that room. And I was just standing there. I was in the dark. I wasn't trying to hide because I didn't want to scare her too bad from that. And she screamed and she started crying. And I'm like, oh my gosh, are you okay? Are you all right? What? I didn't mean to scare you like that. She says, why did you come out of the ceiling? You came down from the ceiling. And I was like, no, I was just standing here. And she says, I saw you come out of the ceiling onto the floor. So,
Wow.
yeah. And I was like, it's okay. So that one I
Well,
comforted her.
you're trying to comfort her, but but did you believe that she actually saw that, or were you thinking, uh, what do I do? What do you do in that situation?
My main concern was to comfort her. And then afterwards, I'm like, did I? Did I? Did she? Was there? What happened? Because I was
Yeah.
just like, I didn't know how to deal with it. I was like, okay, well,
Yeah.
something
You were
something
caught
could have
off
happened.
guard.
Very off guard because
Yeah.
she was definitely, it definitely scared her. And I know I was standing there, but was I? You know what I mean? I mean, it made me question things like,
Well, if I saw you come out of the ceiling, I would question it too, but.
yeah, yeah,
But
but
you don't know if she was actually seeing you or if she saw something else come out of the ceiling. Because
correct,
because that
which
house
came
was
down
highly
to
haunted.
me.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
And maybe it was trying to tell her this is where she's at. This is where she's hiding. She's right here.
yes.
But
It could have
who
been
knows?
Mrs. T, but who
Yeah.
knows? So
Who knows?
that was a time that,
See, that was that knee jerk reaction. You wanted to just make her stop crying and make her feel safe.
correct, I was trying to do the safe factor because I knew
Right.
some things were a little spooky in that house anyway.
Well, yeah.
The terror, I mean,
And so you could see where that would happen more frequently in a household that wasn't
open
aware.
to this, yes,
Yeah,
or open
aware
to,
and
yeah,
open to psychic abilities.
definitely.
Yeah. It's really, I don't want to say funny, so I'm going to say different because you were impacted so much by everything you saw and being told, no, that didn't happen and blah, 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 but I don't have those memories. So I
Hmm.
almost wonder if I saw how the reaction was with you, so I didn't say anything.
Well,
Because I did see things in the house. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah. As I remember it, I was very emotional as a kid. I may be remembering that wrong, but I always was emotional that I can
Well,
remember.
as a highly empathic person, that makes perfect sense.
Right. So you probably saw my emotional reactions to the stuff and the shutdown, them shutting it down in the way they were doing, and I was like, no, no, I'm not gonna be a part of that.
Yeah. Well, because I remember, because I obviously the youngest, I would see sisters getting in trouble in the high school age. I was a freshman in high school when Julie was a senior and you were a junior. So you guys
Mm-hmm.
were in high
Right.
school quite a few years before I got there. And I kind of saw how people got in trouble and I'm just like, I'm not doing that. And I remember having that mentality, I'm not doing that. So I probably had done that from a very young age. Not doing that.
Right.
Saw the reaction, not doing that. Because it was almost like a knee jerk reaction. Oh, she got in trouble for doing this. Nope, not going to do that. And I didn't, you know,
And you didn't.
and I didn't. And I think that's why I had more. Yeah, I think you and Julie thought I was more spoiled being the baby, that I was allowed to do more, but I didn't do that. I'm like, not doing that. I mean, I never did the stuff that you guys did because I didn't want to get in
Right.
trouble.
Yep. We had to test those waters for you.
Yes,
So,
thank you. Yes. Taught me what not to do. But I do believe that probably watching both of you navigate the psychic waters in a haunted house probably taught me more by watching you guys and hearing interactions and stuff than anything else.
yeah. And when we were at the first house that we grew up in, well, it was actually the second house because I don't remember the first house.
I don't remember the first house either.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure it was there yet.
Yeah. No, you weren't there yet, I don't think.
That would be why I don't remember.
You might have been a bun in the oven. When we got to the second house, I don't feel that that one was haunted, but I think because we were so open and seeing things, things were there. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah. Like,
visits from people and stuff.
yeah. Well, wasn't that house the house where Grandpa visited you and Julie?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that
hmm
house.
hmm
Yeah,
But I'm not just talking about the house. I mean, even outside in the yard and stuff like that, there were things that
yeah,
took place. That is the years where the house where we lived when my best friend passed away. Not at the house, but, she was,
right.
we were,
She was
I don't
very
know,
young, very young.
very young. Yeah, and she was my best friend. And I have memories of her being there after she passed. I know that visits happened. I don't think the house was haunted, though.
But she still visits you.
She does still visit me.
Yeah, she still visits you. I get that very strongly, that she still is around.
Yeah. As a child, there were things that, like in that house, that you probably didn't experience, like Julie and I experienced, so I don't think it affected you as much, but you were seeing your own things.
Yeah, and I wasn't telling anybody.
And you weren't telling anybody, right?
Doing my own thing. Okay.
Right.
But I also was kind of a weird child. I could sit and just be off by my own, humming a
Mm-hmm.
song or whatever and doing whatever and just be totally fine.
Right.
Interacting with my own, I'm like going into my own little world, so to speak,
Yeah.
which psychically makes sense now.
Mm-hmm.
But I was very comfortable in that world.
Yeah.
Which probably I shouldn't have been too comfortable in that world, but it was more like you're more open and it was just, you experience more at that age because you're innocent. And,
Yeah.
you know,
You were definitely more clairvoyant, strongly clairvoyant at that time. That's why you enjoyed your daydreams.
yeah.
Because, that's the world that clairvoyant children live in, is the daydreams and
Hmm.
such.
Yeah. And, the time that I nearly drowned,
Mm-hmm.
I saw such horrible things in my mind's eye when that was going on,
Mm-hmm.
frightening things, which up until that point in my life, I had never seen anything that scared me, but I was drowning.
Really, that was the first time?
Yeah, that's the first time that I can remember that frightened me. But I think because I was living in my own little clairvoyant world, I felt like spirit was really protecting me and I had a protection going on. I
Could be,
actually,
yeah.
well, I think it was Grandpa. He was around me a
Mm-hmm.
lot. But see, remember, I was like 5 or 6 when I nearly drowned.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that was, I can to this day, I don't like to talk about it, but I can tell you what I saw. I'm not going to. But, but it fright and everything was black.
Mm-hmm.
When you're 5 and 6, the things I was seeing, I came from a family where there was no, I mean, it's rated G stuff only. You know how it was. It was no horror stuff at our age.
Right.
So I was not exposed to anything that would have prepared me for what I saw,
Mm.
which is really weird because, obviously I didn't drown, obviously. But, when I got pulled up, that just severed that whole blackness and everything I was seeing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously it wasn't my time. I've never figured out why I was shown this.
Hmm.
Obviously, that was a traumatic time, so I've not opened that can of worms. But as being as clairvoyant as evidently it seems like I was, because I was in my own little world a lot, and that
And I don't mean that in a bad thing
no,
when I
no, I
said
mean
your own little world.
no, but that's what a lot of young clairvoyant children are that way.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you're communicating with other people or other things in your own little
Yes.
world.
Yep.
But it's just interesting because it's kind of like, I guess I need to delve into that one day. Not today, but one day.
Yeah.
Because why would a 5 or 6-year-old see such frightening things
Oh, that's true.
that has never been exposed to frightening things?
Yep. Could have been a revisit from a past life.
It could have been a past life experience, or it could
Mm-hmm.
have been something to spur me to get my butt out of that water.
Yeah.
Because my little legs were, I mean, I slid off a boat ramp in flooded water, and
Yeah.
my legs were churning to try to get back up. I was almost running in place and
Yeah.
until I got pulled up by the hair, because that was all that could be reached was my long hair.
Right.
But I think that was kind of trying to scare me to, you better get going. Yeah, it's what I think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have a funny story. I know we're approaching the end of the podcast, but on clear cognizance, how you just have that clear knowing. I've had clear cognizance as long as I can remember, and I think you have too, haven't you?
Yes. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
You just know stuff. You don't know how you know it, and it annoys people that you know it, but you know it, and you can't tell them how you know it, but you know it. So,
Yep.
and then you turn out to be correct.
Yes. And you try really hard not to say, "I told you so."
Yeah. Well, you do.
Yeah. Well.
Well, I need to work on that. But that's something else. That's a different podcast. But
Yep.
so the other night, watching a TV program with my boyfriend, and very dramatic scene, and I said the next line. I just said the words. Didn't do anything, just said the words. And then the next line came, and he kind of just looked at me. He knows I'm psychic,
Mm-hmm.
but he doesn't know what all that entails because it could be a blanket statement. And so
Yeah.
I did it 3 or 4 times. And he goes, "Have you seen this before?" I went, "Nope." He like goes, "How are you doing that?" I said, "Psychic." I said, "It doesn't." I said, "I don't get it all the time, but this movie, I was getting all the hits. It was just like, this was gonna say next. This what's saying next. This what's saying next." I just say the line, and
Mm.
it'd be like, so I better stop this because he's gonna be like,
He's gonna like not watch another movie with you.
yeah, it's like, okay, I need to stop this. But it was just like coming. It was like, why is that doing that? Why is that doing that? I'm just gonna say it, boop boop, because you just know it. It just comes out,
Yeah,
So I was like, "Huh?"
exactly. Hmm.
And so yeah. So some things you just do and without knowing it, and some things you do it because you can do it. Hopefully, this episode did not confuse anybody about the Claires.
Hopefully.
Hopefully not. And I'm sorry that none of you got to hear Kim's sexy voice throughout, but stay
Stop.
tuned. I'm sure she'll do another episode.
I prefer it be the two of us. Okay.
Okay. Well, like I said, wanted to give a little backstory on, and Kim did mention it in the podcast on the Auras because I listened to it, um, about scheduling can be hectic, but it's not just scheduling. Sometimes it's acts of God.
Yes. Yes.
That maybe you're not supposed to do a podcast this week, so hang tough. Okay. So, but
I
huh?
I
Go
well,
ahead.
I just have to step in here, and
Okay.
I feel that all that happened to help push me out of the closet even further to do the episode by myself and talk about my experience with ours and such. I
Well,
think it was a shove to, it's okay, you can do this kind of thing. You know what I mean?
I'm glad me being snowed out of the house was for 6 days was beneficial to you.
I'm sorry your misfortunes helped me with my abilities and such.
That's okay. It's just I didn't have access to the laptop. I didn't have access to my microphone. It was kind of like, well,
Yeah.
I can't even. I'm like, Kim, can we do this another way? I mean, I don't know. I can't get to the stuff I need.
Yeah.
And we knew the snowstorm was coming, and I didn't think it was going to be as bad as they said it would, because when it snows in the mountains, you never know. When a storm comes through the mountains, it can hit and go someplace else,
Hmm.
or it could just stay stationary over one area. There's no rhyme and reason, or it never happens. We get a lot of
Right.
that. So I'm like going, I don't need to take anything that I'll just take some clothes. I had a pair of dress pants I was wearing to work. I had extra clothes at the place I was going to stay. So I didn't think I needed another set of dress clothes because it was a Friday when the snow was hitting.
Hmm.
I had to go shopping and buy another pair of pants and another top. I had to do laundry and wear those, like, 'cause, I mean, it looked like the walk of shame come Monday morning. I mean, I had the same pants on that I wore Friday leaving work. I'm thinking, it's been 2 days. No one's, if anybody notices, they were paying way too close attention to my clothing because it's like,
Exactly.
it's a different top, but it was that kind of situation. It's like, oh my gosh, am I going to have to go buy, I had to go buy things. If I realized it was going to be as bad and I couldn't get back up and see where we live in Western North Carolina, we don't normally get hit as bad with winter
Hmm.
weather as the rest of Western North Carolina because we're closer to
Right.
Georgia. But yeah, it came up from Georgia evidently, and
Just wanted to remind you of what you could get.
yes. So 3 inches of snow, and then let's add a layer of ice. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that was fun. So we do apologize and excuse my rambling, but we are back. Hopefully for a couple more weeks without interruptions. We got another snowstorm coming in Sunday night. Hopefully that moves on and doesn't happen. But if I have to evacuate, I'm taking my laptop with me and my microphone.
And don't forget the power cable.
Yes, that was another situation. Yeah. Okay, my laptops are normally hooked up to lasers. So the lasers are in the garage, and I have to move a vehicle to pull the big lasers out to use them. Well, it's too cold to open up the garage to move a vehicle to get a power cable. So we weren't able to do the podcast last week because I couldn't get the power cable and the laptop was dead.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. It
So,
was dead.
yeah. So last night I'm in the garage squeezing my not skinny body between my father's vehicle and the board that's holding the lasers and trying to, I succeeded to finally free the charging cable for the power cable for the laptop. But I have some bruises
Oh,
from doing it, but I got it.
yay.
Yay. So I took one for the team.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. So if I have to evacuate again, I already have a place set up where I can do the podcast from my home if it's necessary. So, but I have to have my equipment.
Yes.
So we're a step closer. I digress. I'm sorry to ramble on and bore everybody. Kim, is there anything else you want to add to the podcast on Claire's?
No, I think we covered it all.
I think
Just
so.
go back and listen. If you feel the urge, go back and listen, because you might be surprised at some of the things that you did miss or
Wait.
that you weren't ready to hear.
Yeah, and we hear that a lot from listeners that like whether it's the Empath series or when the other ones, they're like, oh my gosh, now it makes sense. Now and they're so excited, but they're missing the rest of the episode
Yeah.
because they're so excited to finally put a name to it, and they're learning something. They're excited, and they're not alone, and that's
Right.
great. But now maybe you need to go back and re-listen to that podcast to see see if there's something else Spirit is wanting you to hear.
Yep.
That's what's
Exactly.
important. All right. Well, thank you, listeners, and we hope you have a wonderful time listening to this podcast.
Be certain to reach out to us and message us at psychicbent1@gmail.com and like, follow, rate, review, subscribe, comment on any of the podcast platforms that you may be listening to us on, including Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, YouTube, all of them, wherever you can find us.
And don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Psychic Bent Podcast. All right,
Yep.
everybody.
That one too, I forgot.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, she didn't say that one. All right, everybody. Thank you, and thank you for listening, and bye.
Bye. May your light shine bright.
Thank you so much for listening to our podcast, Psychic Bent. If you enjoyed Psychic Bent, please like, follow, rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. We can be reached on Facebook at Psychic Bent Podcast. Our email address is psychicbent1@gmail.com. May your light shine bright.